come around to say hello. One-on-one, I'm so fly. You took a nosedive. Careful when you play on my level. For you, it's so. Hey, hello.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra. Flip the script.
Hello, Moto.
Headmaster Tehseen Poonawala will castigate everybody but will not answer the question on the principles of the constitution. Before I go to CR Keswan, Anand Ranganathan is just dying to go for your jugular. Anand, be my guest.
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Navika, welcome to the Islamic Republic of India. Even the pretense of secularism has been wiped out. Today it is Karnataka, it's going to spread. So the entire republic would be Islamic. As the bigot Khusrau would say, Chhap tilak sab chini moke secular banai ke. But then the writing was on the wall in Karnataka the moment Congress won the elections 2 years ago. Remember the immediate demand by the Sunni Ulema board that a Muslim should get minister portfolios because Muslim leaders directed the Muslims to vote for Congress and 88% Muslims voted for Congress. Remember that? All Muslim candidates of JDS and AIMIM lost. Quote, we as a community have given a lot to the Congress. Now it is time we get something in return, unquote. Navika, giving thousands of crores for minority colony development, Waqf upkeep, graveyard upkeep, imam salaries, madrasas, Urdu schools. This when Karnataka has a revenue deficit this year of 20,000 crores. And an overall debt of 7.8 lakh crores, which Tehseen won't tell you. Look, changing demography shifts a government's decisions toward appeasement. We know that. We have seen it in Bengal, haven't we? And we are seeing it in Karnataka. Unless one understands, Navika, the various stages of it, I'm afraid one can neither recommend nor apply a cure to this disease of appeasement. The three stages of appeasement are welfare, wokefare and warfare. Please bear with me because Congress is now so unapologetic about it. It's projecting them as an achievement of sorts. Let me explain. The first stage of appeasement, welfare. Well, it starts innocuously with the flawed pretext that the Muslim minorities are worse off than the rest, and that they are victims and that they always exclusively suffer and fare worse off. Not for nothing did the late Prime Minister Manmohan Singh assert that Muslims have the first right to resources. And so you have the state giving Muslims Hajj subsidy for decades, giving blanket reservations to Muslims, rich or poor, homeless or billionaire, by snatching it from the OBC quota. Using taxpayers' money to host grand iftar parties, asking government-run UGC to fund minority institutions that keep 50% seats reserved for minorities, plundering state coffers to pay monthly salaries to tens of thousands of Maulvis, giving scholarships and shadi shaguns to Muslim women, providing midday meal dining hall only for those schools having 70% or more minority students, giving interest-free loans to set up shops on Waqf land, funding hundreds of madrasas, the Islamic schools, and all this, while grandly proclaiming that it is a secular state. That is, there is a total demarcation between state and religion. The next stage. Please, Tehseen, I did not interrupt you. I am just coming to
this. But this is too long. We should be allowed to rebut it.
Okay, yes, but Tehseen, let me also rebut. You made a point that reservation was made for backward Muslims. Let me correct you. This is a blanket reservation. This is a blanket reservation, which is why the question of the constitution comes in. Where in the constitution is it allowed to give reservations on the basis of religion, not on the basis of backwardness of a class? And that is why CR Keswan, I'm asking you, why is, I'll come back to you, Tehseen, I'll give you an opportunity. I will give you an opportunity. Mr. Keswan represents the BJP. The BJP has several questions on this. Let him ask those questions and then you can answer them. Anand Ranganathan, you had a 4-minute monologue. More than that is not allowed on the news hour. The time comes in, the bell comes in. But CR Keswan, I want to ask you what happens to the constitution, what happens to secularism and the definition that the Congress party gave this country.
Good evening, Navika ji, and to all my fellow panelists and your audience. This is the most dangerous communal budget in the history of India. This divisive communal budget by a bigoted Congress government peddles and panders to the perilous politics of vote bank religious appeasement and vote bank Muslim appeasement. You cannot get more blatant than this, and see the stark difference. While on one side you have the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, for whom the holy book is the Constitution and his dharma are constitutional values, and he has been protecting the rights of the SC, ST, OBC communities as guaranteed by Baba Saheb Ambedkarji's Constitution. But here, blatant Muslim, pandering, and more importantly, the conspiracy by the Congress party is to snatch away the rights of the SC, ST and OBC communities. Baba Saheb Ambedkarji very clearly said, you cannot have religion-based constitution. Ambedkarji was against religion-based constitution, but you look at the way these people operate, and Navikaji, this is not an ad hoc incident. You look at the history of I'll come to Karnataka, but you look at the history of the Congress party, especially when, UPA came to power. On one side, you have the Prime Minister who believes in Sarva Dharm Sambhav and Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Here, the heart is only for the Vikas of the minority. What happened in 2009? Late Manmohan Singh ji said the first right to resources is for minority, particularly Muslims. And 2011, the conspiracy, was exposed in 2011 when the UPA government issued an office memorandum trying to carve out a sub-quota for 4.5% for Muslims from the 27% OBC quota. This is the sinister plan of the Congress ever. They want to take away the reservation of the OBCs and the SC, STs, and when they say we want to increase 50% reservation, no, it's a red herring. And look at what they did with Aligarh Muslim University and Jamia, government-run institution in 2011 and 1981, and Aligarh Muslim University, the SC, ST quotas went for a toss. It was given only, Muslim quota. And in the election, we'll never forget the Prime Minister very correctly warned us. They talked about wealth distribution. They talked about the wicked wealth distribution and the sinister inheritance tax. You see this at play now. You see this, and what did the allies say? Pura ka pura. Lalu Prasad ji and Navika ji, remember MVA and Maharashtra. That is why they were defeated, which is why this India alliance is losing. MVA's manifesto, it was Muslim Vikas Azadi. It was Muslim vote appeasement. That is what MVA stood for. Their manifesto reflected, pretty much what the All India Ulama Board said. And today, what has happened here is most condemnable, and the BJP will ensure that, the people of Karnataka are watching, and the kind of, injustice which is being done to them, and I think they'll give a different to the Communal Congress.
Absolutely, C.R. Keswan, you're bang on the point, and Tehseen Poonawalla. Now, two questions. Two questions, because both of these are premises of Rahul Gandhi. Number one, that the backward classes, Jati, jiski jitni abadi utna haq. Well, what happens to the backward classes? He's stitching up a PDA or a backward Jati, alliance. What is he doing? Taking away their rights and giving it to the minorities, number one. And number two, I come back to the question of the Constitution. How can the budget provision flout the articles of the Constitution that ban absolutely any quotas on the basis of religion? Tehseen Poonawalla, please convince the nation on this, because otherwise this is being called a halal budget. The Congress party is being called the Muslim League party.
So there are three broad questions that were raised and a lot of things that are factually not correct. So I will come to all three of this. First of all, I never said that it is based on religion. I very categorically say that can be based on backwardness. For example, the Bafan community in Gujarat, the Dafar community in Gujarat, the Fakir community in Gujarat, the Hingoria community in Gujarat, the Garnara community in Gujarat, the Ansari community in Gujarat, the Jat community in Gujarat. Now, Jat Hindus don't get reservation in Gujarat. Jat Muslims get reservation in Gujarat. Second thing, my friend C.R. Kesavan said a very important thing. He said, look, AMU, the reservations for SC, STs were taken back. The matter recently went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled it's a minority institute. Leave all of that. Since 11 years, who's the Prime Minister of this country? Why couldn't the Prime Minister give justice to the SC and STs? Now let's come to the most important case. I'd like a quote. This is a quote made a few days back. It says, the gentleman was a symbol of India's pluralistic and inclusive cultural identity. We celebrate his contribution to music, poetry, and the unification of diverse cultures. The gentleman who made this speech was the Honorable Prime Minister about the biggest that Anand Ranganathan ji said, Khusrao ji. Do you and does the BJP believe Khusrao ji was a bigot? Is that what we are coming down to? Look, I have no problems with people's personal opinions. But then to make this, to link this to the Congress, I think is a tad unfair, Dr. Anand. Please, you may respond to me. Karnataka's revenue deficit is amongst the third lowest in the country. Its revenue deficit, it's spending the second highest on infrastructure in the country. That is the budget. But they're debating 4,000.
Sometimes your logic is so unbearable that I certainly need a doctor at this point in time, because it is. If you're a medical doctor, yes, Anand Ranganathan, I need your help. I can barely breathe with the number of lies that are being piled on to us. But on the contracts for government jobs, it's a blanket Muslim quota that has been put, Anand Ranganathan. Ab ye Tehseen ko, I really don't have the patience to explain this to Tehseen. Please take over and explain how.
Navika, somewhere, I don't know where, Jinnah is smiling. Because in the end, he got not one, but two Islamic republics. Now, I want to ask a very pointed question to Tehseen. I know he's doing the semantics of other backward classes, not castes and Muslims. The fact is, Tehseen, do you deny the fact that Mr. Azim Premji was also eligible under the 4% blanket reservation Muslim quota? Any Muslim in Karnataka. It wasn't about class at all. So please do not obfuscate the matter. It was under the clause 2B of the OBC reservation. It was over and above what other Muslim classes have been given reservation. It was a proposal of Deva Gowda that was implemented by the Congress, and Mr. Keswan also needs to answer that until Mr. Bomai struck it off for 10 to 15 years with the central government and the state government both being BJP, that quota existed. So why even under the BJP governments in Karnataka, you were giving blanket 4% reservations to Muslim, Mr. Keshavan? You need to answer that as well.